The last thing we should have to worry about is living or dying, mainly dying.
In a statement, a CMHA spokesperson said the building takes a multi-layered approach to security that includes working with residents, active surveillance, and partnerships with law enforcement.
A woman is dead after a shooting at a retirement home in Walnut Hills, and the shooter still on the run.
Now, we spoke with one woman who says she's lived here for 5 years. She says this is the 6th shooting that she's aware of happening here. Just one last week, though we're told by someone that may have been an incident of self-defense after they were being beaten up by someone. We're still looking to confirm that at this point in time, but the overwhelming majority of the people I've spoken with, a half dozen or so, say they are concerned about security at this building and they would like to see some kind of security officer installed.
Grief does not always come once and quietly fade away. Sometimes it comes back before a family has even caught its breath, reopening wounds that never had time to heal. This story begins with a family that had already buried loved ones the year before, only to be forced into mourning again just days before the holidays. At the center of it is Takia McCollum, a 31-year-old mother of 5, whose life ended inside a senior living complex apartment building in Walnut Hills, Cincinnati. Her death came after the family had already endured a devastating tragedy in October 2024, when her grandmother and 2 relatives were killed in a stabbing inside a College Hill home. The losses have left her family and community struggling to understand how so much violence could touch the same family in such a short period of time. Before Takia ever became a headline or a name mentioned in police reports, she was a mother trying to get through everyday life like so many other parents. She was raising 5 children, all at different ages and all needing her in different ways. She had a 12-year-old daughter, 9-year-old twin boys, a 6-year-old daughter, and a 2-year-old son. Her days revolved around them, around school schedules, meals, bedtime routines, and the constant balancing act that comes with caring for young lives. To her children, she was comfort, discipline, protection, and love all wrapped into one person. To her family, Takia was more than just a mother. She was a daughter, a sister, and someone whose presence filled a room. The people closest to her described her as full of energy and personality. She loved music. She loved to laugh. She was expressive and bold in a way that made people feel at ease around her. Her brother later said she was a ball of life, someone who would give the last dollar she had if she thought someone else needed it more. She was the type of person people remembered because she left an impression, not by trying to, but just by being herself. That is what makes what happened next so hard to accept. On December 23rd, just days before Christmas, Takia was inside the Park Eden apartment building in the Walnut Hills neighborhood of Cincinnati. Park Eden is described as a senior living apartment complex, a place that many people would expect to feel quiet and secure, especially in the early evening hours. Instead, that night turned into something far different. Just before 7 in the evening, 911 calls came in reporting gunshots inside the building. Residents later said they heard an argument on the 4th floor, followed by gunshots and then a scream. Those sounds broke through the normal routine of the evening and immediately signaled that something was wrong. Police and emergency crews were dispatched to the scene as quickly as possible. When officers arrived, they found a woman inside the building, suffering from gunshot wounds. She was located in a stairwell, a common area that people walk through every day without a second thought. Emergency medical crews attempted life-saving measures, doing everything they could in those critical moments, but it was not enough. Takia McCollum was pronounced dead at the scene. In that instant, a mother of 5 was gone.
We heard this young lady scream. The next thing you know, we heard pow. Then we heard another pow.
Mahogany Conyers showed us where 31-year-old Takia McCollum took her last breaths.
This is where her body was, right here on these steps. She got shot on 4. Somehow, Takia made it down these steps, and she collapsed here.
It was the latest in a spate of violence this year that has hit Walnut Hills and specifically the Park Eden apartments. March 21st, a man shot and killed at the building. And then July 23rd, another man shot. This time it was non-fatal, thanks in great part to Ms. Conyers.
I walked out here with my dog and watched the man's face get blown off and his blood on me. I had to do CPR. I'm a nurse. I had to do CPR on this man.
Then last week, another shooting. This time it was Conyers' son with the gun, who police determined was defending himself.
So as my son getting away from the man after they done, this man done rushed him again. My son had no choice but to shoot him.
That shooting was non-fatal as well, but 5 days later, Tuesday night's shooting was fatal.
Enough is enough. It's depressing living here. Stressful.
Miss Sandy, as she's known in the building, lives a few yards from where the young woman was shot, but she won't live there for long.
I have applied for an apartment, and the first of the year, I'll be getting the hell up out of here.
The residents with whom we spoke at the Park Eden say their repeated pleas for professional security at the building have been ignored by the building's owner.
The county auditor's office shows that the apartment building is owned by CMHA, the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. We wanted to speak with them today about the issues that the residents are having, but they're closed on December 24th and 25th.
Hell, I'm not gonna lie, it's like I'm living in hell. And the last thing we should have to worry about is living or dying, mainly dying. That's how we live in here. We don't know if this is gonna be our last breath in here.
For Takia's family, the news came as a sudden and overwhelming shock, one they were not prepared for. Takia's brother spoke openly about the pain his family was facing. He said the hardest part of all of it was the children. He talked about how devastating it was to explain to 5 kids that their mother was not coming back. That kind of conversation changes a family forever. There is no way to prepare for it, and there is no way to soften it enough to make it hurt less. As the shock settled in, Takia's family wanted people to know who she was beyond the way she died. They shared memories of her laughter, her kindness, and her personality. She was known as the life of the party, someone who brought energy wherever she went. One person who knew her shared a memory of braiding her hair, sitting for hours talking, laughing, and telling stories. Those everyday moments, the ones that seemed small at the time, are the ones that become priceless after someone is gone. Family members also shared that Takia did not live at the Park Eden building. They believed she may have been visiting someone or staying with someone there, but she was not a permanent resident. That detail only added to the questions surrounding her death. Why was she there that evening? Who was she with? What happened in the moments leading up to the shooting? Those are questions her family is still waiting to have answered. At the time of reporting, Cincinnati police had not released information about a suspect or a motive. No arrests had been announced. The homicide unit continues to investigate, but for Takia's loved ones, the waiting is heavy. The pain does not pause just because answers are missing. What made this loss even more devastating is the fact that Takia's family had already experienced another unimaginable tragedy just over a year earlier. In October 2024, the McCollum family was rocked by a triple homicide involving Takia's grandmother, Patricia McCollum, and 2 children she had adopted and was raising, 32-year-old DJ and 11-year-old Cadence. They were found stabbed to death inside their College Hill home after a violent incident that ended in a SWAT standoff. The man responsible later died from self-inflicted injuries at the hospital. In a matter of days, the family went from normal life to planning multiple funerals at once. That kind of loss does not simply pass with time. It lingers. It reshapes how a family moves through the world. That grief was still fresh when Takia was killed, just over a year later. For her family, this was not just another tragedy. It was a reopening of wounds that never had time to heal. Duran said this was the 5th family member they had lost in just over a year. He described feeling numb, saying that death was starting to feel normal, even though it never should. As Takia's family mourned her, the community around Park Eden was also grappling with fear and anger. Takia's death was reported to be the 2nd shooting at the building in less than a week. Residents and community members pointed to other shootings at the same location earlier in the year. Some were fatal, others were not. But for the people who lived there, it felt like violence kept returning to the same place. Residents spoke openly about being fed up. Some said they had raised concerns about safety and security long before Takia was killed. Others said they were trying to move out because they no longer felt safe. Living in a building meant to house seniors and families. Many said they should not have to worry about hearing gunshots in the evening. Takia's sister spoke out strongly, saying the building was supposed to be a senior living facility but did not feel safe. She said people should not be living in fear in a place that is supposed to offer stability and protection. The building is owned by the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. After the shooting, the organization released a statement acknowledging the incident and saying they were cooperating with police. They said they used multiple security measures, including surveillance and partnerships with law enforcement, and encouraged residents to share information with police. Still, residents questioned why violence continued despite those measures.
When you look at that picture, does it conjure up any memories?
It does.
While families plan their holiday celebrations,
Her time was cut short, but I think she lived her life.
Duran McCullum is planning a funeral.
She wasn't a person that got in a, that what you would think somebody would be looking to kill her.
Police found his younger sister, Takia McCullum, shot in this stairwell Tuesday night at Walnut Hills Park Eden building. First responders tried saving her life, but it was too late.
Biggest thing is, having to explain to her kids. I mean, there's 5 of them, that, you'll never see your mother again.
McCullum says Takia lived life to the fullest.
She had the biggest heart, and she, you wouldn't have to ask her for anything. And, she did stuff genuinely. She didn't want anything in return.
McCullum says his sister didn't live at Park Eden and is still not sure what happened. It's hardly the first tragedy to hit this family.
We just learned the identities of the 3 people killed in a stabbing.
Last October, McCullum's grandmother, foster advocate Pat McCullum, and Pat's 2 adopted kids died in a stabbing incident. Police say Pat McCullum's son-in-law, Anthony Mathis, was responsible for it before turning the knife on himself.
Everything happens for a reason, and that, that my grandmother came and got her baby and he took her home.
Tuesday night shooting marks the second at Park Eden in the last week. There's been several more shootings throughout this year, and residents say they're fed up.
There's seniors here, and there's children here, and we live right across the street from an elementary school.
When we spoke with tenants on Wednesday, they raised complaints over the lack of safety measures in place at the affordable housing facility.
We've all come together, and we've been telling our property management that we need security.
Last Thursday, another shooting at the building injured a man. Mahogany Conyers says her son was involved in the altercation, trying to defend her.
We are tenants, and the last thing we should have to worry about is living or dying. Mainly dying.
In a statement, a CMHA spokesperson said the building takes a multi-layered approach to security that includes working with residents, active surveillance, and partnerships with law enforcement.
In the days following Takia's death, her family and community came together in the ways people often do after sudden loss. They shared photos and memories. They created a GoFundMe fundraiser to help cover funeral expenses and to support Takia's 5 children as they face life without their mother. The fundraiser described Takia as a devoted mother whose life was taken far too soon and explained that the funds would help provide immediate assistance for her children. It spoke to the reality that those children have lost their main source of stability, comfort, and care, and that honoring Takia means doing everything possible to protect and support them moving forward. Right now, there are still many unanswered questions. Police have not publicly said who pulled the trigger or why. There have been no announced arrests. The investigation continues, but for Takia's family, the waiting is painful. They are left trying to grieve while also hoping for answers that may bring some measure of accountability. What is clear is this: Takia McCullum was 31 years old. She was a mother of 5. She was deeply loved. She did not deserve to die in a stairwell. Her children did not deserve to lose their mother. Her family did not deserve to face another devastating loss. This is not just a story about a shooting. It is a story about a life that mattered, about children growing up without their mom, about a family carrying more grief than any family should have to carry, and about a community asking how many times this can happen before something changes. Takia's name deserves to be remembered, not for how she died, but for who she was while she lived.